So I want to begin with a story of this young person. They were about 19 years old at the time. They were not religious, but they had a religious friend. And this young person would drive and drop their Catholic friend off at church every Sunday because their friend didn't have a car and it was a very long walk for their friend. And after dropping off their friend, the young person would leave, run some errands, and then by the time Mass ended, come back and pick up their friend, and same thing would happen next Sunday. But eventually this young person decided just to wait in the parking lot rather than to leave. And so they would roll down the windows, listen to music, read a book, a variety of things to pass the time. Then one day this young person took the next step and they went inside the building. They didn't go inside of a church, but they went kind of out into the entranceway, found a bench, sat down and waited. Once the Mass ended, they quickly found their friend and left as quick as they could. But eventually this young person then gathered the courage to go inside the church itself, joined their friend for Mass. And it was a very strange experience for this person, but they stayed the whole way through. Then afterwards, instead of immediately rushing out of the building, this young person decided to linger for a little while. And then this family came up to them and introduced themselves. They hadn't recognized this young person before, and they wanted to welcome them to this church. Not only did they welcome them, but they invited this young person, along with their Catholic friend, to come to their house that afternoon, to play sports with their kids, and then to have dinner with them. Now, this young person was so blown away by the hospitality and this generosity of his family that they decided to come back the next Sunday, despite the strangeness of a Mass and despite feeling completely out of place. And over the next few months, this family continued to welcome this young person, who was able to meet other families, and they extended hospitality as well. But then this young person had to move to a different city, away from this church, away from this community that they just found, and also away from their Catholic friend. However, because of that good experience at this Catholic church and these families, the young person decided to go and find another Catholic church in this new city. They went to one church. It was a big church, but they felt lost. There's no family there to welcome them. No one noticed that they even came in the door, that they were new. And so they went to a different church the next week. Same thing happened. Then they went to another church, and still not knowing the Catholic customs, they made some awkward mistakes during Mass. So embarrassed, they decided, I'm not going back to that church. Then they kept hopping around the churches for a while in their city, trying to find a church, trying to find a community. And eventually they decided to take the initiative and speak with someone after Mass. And so they saw someone with a name tag on, they had a nice suit, they were helping people find a place to sit during the Mass, and so they figured this was a good person to talk to. So after Mass, this young person went up to the man in the suit and they explained that they were new, that they wanted to learn more about the faith, perhaps even become Catholic one day. The man in the suit, he looked surprised, a little shocked, perhaps uncertain on what to do next. But he decided to take this young person's contact info and then said that someone would call them back. So the young person left and they waited for a phone call. Days went by, then weeks. They never received a phone call back. And because of that, and because of these struggles trying to find this church and being welcomed, they decided to stop going to Catholic church altogether. Now, this young person in this story is me. That was my experience. It started off really well with this one church I went to. But then as I moved, I fell through the cracks. Now, obviously, me standing here as a priest, I came back by God's grace. And that was because several months later, my Catholic friend reached out and helped connect me with a church that was welcoming. And I was able to become part of that parish, learn about the faith, and eventually become Catholic through the RCIA. And I share this because I don't think my situation's that unique. I mean, yes, in some ways, but no in other ways. In terms of people exploring and searching different churches, trying to find a home, trying to learn about the faith, but then hitting these roadblocks or having these bad experiences and then being turned off altogether. And while I had that Catholic friend to reach out and to help me, not everyone has that. And it shouldn't have to get that far, right? And so hospitality, it's incredibly important. It's incredibly important for parishes. Why? Because the church is supposed to grow. It's supposed to look outwards. It was never meant to be this inward or self-referential church. And if a church community loses sight of why they exist, that the church exists to evangelize, then they lose sight of people like me who are outside of a church, or even those Catholics who are drifting from church to church, trying but struggling in their faith. And when I speak about the church growing, it's not simply about numbers, about having more people or a bigger collection or more registrations, although those are indicators of growth and we should look for those as well. But we should never lose sight of the individual person, how each person has a story. They're on a journey that God desires to reveal himself to them in a particular way. And if we look at our mission here at our parish, the reason why we exist, our mission is to encounter Jesus and know him personally, to grow together as his disciples, and to go and share the gospel with others. So know, grow, and go. And this vision of where we feel God is calling us to as a parish begins with us becoming this vibrant, welcoming Catholic parish. That's the first line in our vision statement, that St. Maurice Parish is a vibrant and welcoming Catholic parish. That we would be this parish that is alive and active and that people want to be here. That we would be amazing at welcoming newcomers and parishioners alike. That from the moment someone comes into this building or steps foot on this property, that they feel welcomed and that they're given this opportunity to encounter God. That no matter where they are on their journey, that they can continue that journey here with us. And we can help them to belong to our community, to encounter the Lord, and then conform their life more and more to Jesus. So often we can reverse that, where we expect people to have everything figured out in their life, morally speaking, that they're doing the right things, not doing those other things, that everything's perfect in their life. And then we expect them to believe in Jesus and everything he taught, everything the church teaches. And then maybe if they have those things, then they could be part of our community. But that's backwards. If we look at the process of conversion, first we need to make people feel like they belong, that they're welcomed here. Then we need to help them come to believe in Jesus and all that he revealed to us. And with that faith, that conversion, then they're able to change their life, to follow God's commandments and the teachings of the church. So we're striving to become this parish that is hospitable, that can meet people where they're at, because that's where God wants to meet them, and that's where we can meet them as well. Now our readings today, in case you're wondering, when am I going to get to the readings? Our readings today, they have this theme of hospitality among other things. We have a story of Abraham who was visited by the Lord and how he rushed to the Lord with hospitality. And if we look at this passage, notice that when the Lord came, it was in the heat of the day. Kind of like now, it's the heat of the day. It's really hot, right? But in other words, Abraham could have been resting. He could have been doing something else, taking a siesta, so to speak. But instead, he was attentive. He was ready. He was watching. He was waiting to be hospitable. And then he ran to meet the Lord when he saw him. And this hospitality, it was not simply the bare minimum. It's ironic in a sense because initially he offered, a little water, a little bit of bread. But what he actually provided was he and his wife then dropped everything. They made these cakes. They took their best calf and then cooked it. They gave curds and milk. So in other words, they made no stops. They held nothing back in being hospitable to the Lord and his angels. Origen, who was an early church father, he commented on this passage and he said that the meaning of the Oak of Mamre, that's this location where Abraham was located, that it means vision or sharpness of sight. Abraham and his wife Sarah, they had this vision, they had this awareness of others. They were hospitable. And so for us as a parish, hospitality and becoming welcoming requires this cultural shift where we too gain this proper vision or sharpness of sight, where we look for opportunities to extend hospitality, where we're attentive to those who may be new or those who are disconnected from others, where we're not afraid to go out of our comfort zone, to introduce ourselves and to connect with other parishioners. If we do this enough, then eventually we won't need to think about it. It just becomes something we do naturally, becomes part of our parish culture, which is exactly what we want. Turning now to our gospel, we have this other story where this theme of hospitality is at work. And you may say, well, isn't Jesus disregarding hospitality here? I mean, Martha welcomed Jesus, was trying to do all of these things for him. Meanwhile, Mary was just sitting there with Jesus. And Jesus praises Mary for choosing the better part. So what's with that? And there's many different levels to this and implications in the spiritual life and the life of a church, but simply just looking at hospitality, Jesus was not dismissing it. Mary and Martha were both trying to be hospitable, but in different ways. But Martha seemed to lose sight of the purpose for hospitality. She seemed to get so caught up in the details, the tasks, and having everything right, that she forgot about her guest. She forgot about the person right there with her. And for us here at the parish, when I speak about this need to become more hospitable, to create this cultural shift, it's not simply becoming busier or doing these new tasks or initiatives and seeing that as our goal. Our goal is to be attentive and welcoming to every person who comes into this building, particularly those who are new. And so one of the things we will be organizing in the fall is trying to establish a hospitality team. While everyone at this parish plays a role in hospitality, we need a team of individuals who are dedicated to help make this happen. And in creating this team of volunteers, we're not simply looking to fill this hole in ministry with whoever puts up their hand. We're not looking for the first 20 warm bodies. We're not doing that. What we really want, what we need, is a team of individuals who have the right gifts, the right charisms, and this heart for welcoming people. A team of people who will not simply be busy for the sake of being busy or taking on these initiatives and losing sight of the purpose for them. We want individuals who understand this process of conversion and how hospitality and accompaniment helps people, and it's key. It's a key first step. So we want this team of individuals who have this burning desire for people to encounter Jesus one day. A team of individuals who are not afraid of thinking big or thinking outside of a box, who can look at everything from the way we celebrate Mass here to the building layout, our signage, the events we put on, that they can help us become more vibrant, a more welcoming parish. We need this because so many people have yet to encounter the Lord. People within our parish boundaries, people within your own families, right? They're looking for a spiritual home. And people drift around looking for hope, and we could offer that here. I've often wondered how many people like me, when I was 19, have wandered into this church, particularly during this pandemic, and have since left because no one noticed them, no one welcomed them. And so I encourage you to pray, to ask the Lord, how can we be more hospitable here at our parish? Perhaps you're feeling a tug on your heart. Maybe you have gifts and charisms that can help with this. Maybe you know someone who should be on this team. Keep praying, discerning, and stay tuned as we try to establish this in the fall. Hospitality doesn't have to be complicated. It's something we are all called to be part of, especially as we try to create this cultural shift. And it's something that we can begin today. We don't have to wait till the fall. We could begin today. Perhaps today, as you leave, look around, find someone you don't know. Maybe you've seen them for years, but you don't know their name. Ask them their name. Ask them, is there anything I could pray for you this week? It could be as simple as that. And maybe that's scary, but it doesn't have to be. So it can start somewhere, and it needs to start with you and me, and we could start here today.